right, and we're live. Hi, Lorena.
So it was really
There,
fun finding the mute and the unmute button. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I got some sleep. I feel like this thing happens in the live events where everyone's like jet lagged and sleeping in hotel rooms and so tired for the morning lightning talks. But now everyone got to sleep in their beds at home, right?
Soup. Yeah, yeah. And I shared one with a kitten. It was really an interesting evening for me.
Walter Mergato, we love him
Yeah,
so
exactly.
much. All right, so we're gonna get started with the lightning talks, and first up is Aakanksha. Hi, Aakanksha.
Hello,
Let me
hello,
add.
Dustin. Hi,
Yeah, there's your
Lorena.
slides. Hello, hello. Okay, you got 5 minutes. Go for it.
Sure. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Aakanksha Chouhan. I'm a senior year undergrad at SRM University, AP, India, and I work as the ML research intern at National University of Singapore. So today we're going to talk about how we can mold the right kind of data for our machine learning models. The last couple of years have seen an immense growth of machine learning, and it heavily influences our decisions in our day-to-day life. So is machine learning magic? Well, certainly not. Put it simply, there are three key dimensions that we usually focus on for the magic to happen: well-calibrated data, sophisticated algorithms, and efficient computation. However, when you lay the foundation, the perfect quality and the perfect quantity of data is the secret sauce for creating a successful machine learning model. Not to say like modern data approaches are definitely data hungry. That's like a mantra, right? Rule number one, no data, no ML. So make sure you have enough examples of clear labels and authentic annotations. It might seem like a small point, but these are the things that allow your algorithms to learn at the first place. What does that mean exactly? Well, your model is only as good as the data it trains on. That is, more data beats clever algorithms, but better data beats more data. Remember that. If a lot of data is important, it's also important to feed the right kind of data. Which brings me to rule number two, that is use consistent terms. That is, if you got to make sure that if you are switching between the columns and they are not consistent, then your model might treat it as the same number, which it might not. That is, it's going to treat like stuff that's a wholesale price or a retail price as the same thing, that's a number, which is eventually not. And it's important to know that though the perfect quantity of data matters, it's also the perfect quality. That brings us to data curation. Even though organizations would have had a lot of unstructured data at their hand, but developing a deficient data pre-processing pipeline still remains a task, and it requires the skills to identify and curate meaningful and unbiased data set. That brings us to situational analysis. Why do we want to collect the data? And how do we want to collect the data? That's rule number three, identify relevant data signals. So in case, well, although more data is generally better, it has to be the right kind of data. So say if you want your algorithm to recommend a clothing size for you, then the go-to ID signals for you should be the product ID, the size purchased by the customer, user ID, and the fit feedback. You might collect additional data about transaction, age of the customer, etc., but these are not the absolute necessity. Well, sometimes essential also means granular. So say if you're collecting data that has to be periodic, then make sure you're collecting it long enough. A good rule of thumb would be at least for 3 cycles. Rule number 4, beware of the biased data. So granularity matters, but some errors become obvious when we take a step backwards. So well, we know that online reviews on apparels and anything that you're purchasing from your online store, these tend to overrepresent the most extreme views. So if you choose to train your model based on these reviews alone, your model could be biased. So what are the options? Either you can collect more data, always not possible. If you have a way to tell the dynamics that are causing the bias, you may be still able to quantify the effect. So prepare to make some corrections as you move forward, and don't just let perfect be the enemy of the great. So depending on why or how do we want to collect the data, there are different ways to approach it that are guided and unguided search respectively. So the bottom line is, before these approaches, both of them have their own set of challenges, and depending on why and how do you want to collect the data, you need to overcome these challenges. When people talk about machine learning process, this is what they usually talk about: a certain aspect of machine learning workflow that is defining appropriate metrics to measure the success of the intelligent solution. How well your model is performing, how well it generalizes, what's your metrics? but it's also important to focus on the previous steps, which is how do you source your data? How do you fabricate your own data set? How you process the data set and perform feature engineering? Because remember, trash in, trash out, right? So feeding the right kind of data with right features, which is the diet to your algorithms, is very important because you lay a strong foundation for your model. Sometimes you might not have that fancy and complicated model, but the data that you have is of high quality, then you are likely to beat the sophisticated algorithms, like to an extent that are trained on very poor quality or very poor quantity of data. So with that, I conclude. Thank you very much for joining. And here are a few ways to contact me. We can always chat more. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Lorena, for having me.
Likewise.
Of course. Awesome topic.
So next up, we have Andres and Denny. Hi, y'all.
Hey, good morning.
Hey.
So good to see you.
Yeah, hi, Lorena. Hi. Yeah, Dustin, as you were saying, this is the first PyCon that I don't struggle waking up on Saturday morning for that.
Yeah,
usually, jet lags and stuff. So who we are, why are we here? So I'm an Andres Pineda.
I'm Denny.
And we are the representation of the PyCon Latam conference. So PyCon Latam is a version of the PyCon conference that aims to bring together Python developers for all Latin America countries. Our goal is to serve as a platform for those Python developers in Latin America to interact with the Python community at large. We all love PyCon. We all love Python. And that's why we want to bring that experience to Latin America. So 2019, I'm always confused. Every time I'm talking about 2019, I think it was last year, but 2020 for me is like a no-no. So in 2019, this was our first PyCon Latam, and we were capable of bringing together almost 200 people into Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. It was a success. More than anything, the success was because we were able to bring people for what we want. We want to bring people for all Latin America, inclusive people that are not Spanish speakers. So Puerto Vallarta 2019. This is just a pic of what the things that we saw. And in 2021, this year is going to be online because of reasons, it's going to be 2 days, 2 tracks, Spanish and English. It's going to be 4 keynotes, and we also including some challenge. For the keynotes, we have good surprises because of the keynotes are already selected, and they are well-known community members, as you can see, because that's what we want. Bring communities, bring the PyCon to Latin America. And ticket price, it's for the weekend of PyCon, the price is 50% off, which is 200 Mexican pesos. 400 is gonna be the full price on Monday. If you don't have an idea what 200 Mexican pesos is I just did a quick Google search. It's around 10 United States dollars.
Algo muy importante es que la conferencia está abierta a todo público, pero independientemente de donde seas o tu idioma, a ti, hispanoparlante que nos estás viendo, gran parte de esta conferencia fue creada para ti. Así que ya sabes, por aquí nos vemos.
Exactly what she said. Hablo español también, but what she said, and this conference, if you speak Spanish, either Spanish, English, French, Portuguese, we want you here. And you can be either a sponsor, you can be a speaker. Couple papers are opened. So if you speak English and you say, I have this good presentation that I would like to showcase to my Latin American people, friends, this is a good opportunity. Go to Pylatam and subscribe yourself and find the best way that you can support the community. We are waiting for you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. I was at Pylatam in 2019, and it was great. And my favorite part was we had live translators and little earpieces for those that didn't speak the language of the talk. You could hear it in your language. It's awesome. So thanks, guys, for sharing.
Thank you for the
fantastic conference. Para mí, hispanohablantes, podemos hablar en español y Python, winning. It's perfect.
All right. And in the same vein, next up we have Cristián telling us about
Hey, that's
PyCon Chile. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get your slides there. All right, you got 5 minutes.
Good. Let me start my timer. Cool. As you noticed already, the Spanish-speaking community of Python is eating the world. So let's talk about another Spanish-speaking initiative. So Python Chile, PyDay, PyCon, and a little bit more. My name is Cristián. You can find me in the social network there. This is not relevant at the moment, but let's go to the main topic. So Chile. Do you know Chile? So first of all, let's clarify. It's not related to chile con carne, so don't get confused, nor the chili peppers. Even though you know the shape and stuff, it's kind of similar. So it's a really long country, as you saw, and we can compare it, for example, for North America, Europe, Africa, Asia. But not only that, since of course it's a really long country, we have many different beautiful landscapes in the country. First, we have the driest desert, the Atacama Desert, that sometimes go weird, and they said, okay, I will have flowers now. And then we have this phenomenon called the flowering desert. We also have colorful cities like Paraíso, a huge capital like Santiago, beautiful south full of lakes, rivers, mountain forests, and of course, one of the most beautiful things from Chile are the mountains. And also, we have the smallest type of deer, the purú. Look at that cutie. Isn't it beautiful? I will just take here 2 seconds just for you to evaluate this. Oh my God, it's the most beautiful deer. And yes, you can learn Python too, little beautiful creature. Whatever you want, you can achieve. But the most important thing about this is that we have a Python community too. So what was the scenario a couple of years ago? We had a couple of local communities that were not really active, only a couple of community meetups events running up, but we had a lot of motivated people that were just waiting for some event, some starting point to start contributing into Python. So we had a PyDay 2020. We thought, okay, let's create a small conference. Maybe if we don't get speakers, the organizers can do maybe a couple of talks. We can have maybe 50 people, and it will be a total success because, it's the first one and everything. We got a really, really good response. We had 3 really amazing keynotes. We had Lorena, that you know already. We had Katia Lira from Mexico. We had Juan Luis Cano from Spain. And this small event became a really huge event. So we had 12 sponsors, 4 educational institutions, 10 international communities that decided to help us with all the tweeting and stuff. We sold more than 2,300 tickets, more than 700 people in Discord, and a lot of views in YouTube. But of course, this happened after 11 continuous hours of transmission that we had for the conference, and it was 1 day. So this is the picture of the end of the event of all the organizers, and you can see, well, even my face is really tired because it was a really long and beautiful, beautiful event. So what happened after this? We decided, okay, let's get more coordinators. We got them. Let's have maybe more diffusion, like the diversity, like in the different platforms that we have the community. So it's really healthy and growing at the moment. So we thought, okay, let's do this thing. So we are really happy to announce that we will have this year the first Chilean PyCon ever in history of Python, and it will happen in November. Soon you will get more information, but you can visit, as always, pycon.cl for more information, maybe in the next couple of days. And now for a lightning talk inside another lightning talk. As you noted already, maybe you're not familiar, but Spanish is the second most spoken language for native speakers in the world, the second after Chinese, and the third place we have there, English, right? These are all the countries that currently speak Spanish. And yes, we even have one country in Africa, there's Guinea Equatorial. So we decided, you know what? We are a lot of communities. We are putting a lot of efforts. And why we don't create something, to empower each other, to support each other, and make this Spanish community even greater. So we decided to start an initiative called Python en Español, which is a collaboration between many different communities: Argentina, Spain, Central America in general, Mexico, Chile, every single country that you see there, the little flag. So we decided to create this. The Discord now has more than 1,500 people. So if you speak Spanish as a native speaker, second, third, or even fifth language, you are more than welcome to join us there. So yeah, that will be it.
That was great. I'm really excited for that conference to exist. And I'm also not sure who is cuter, the Purdue or Walter Mergato, Lorena's new kid. I think it's a tie.
It is a tough battle, yeah.
Thanks, Cristián.
Crying. Thanks, Cristián. That's fantastic. Also, that community is really, really great. So I encourage everyone of all different backgrounds of Spanish, come hang out with us.
Great. And next up, we have Dia-ning telling us about parameterizing tests. You have 5 minutes. Take it away.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Dia-ning, and I've been writing Python tests with pytest and unittest. Sometimes I've found that some tests are quite similar to each other. However, writing similar tests over and over again would not be ideal. I'd like to share a way to deduplicate test code by parameterizing them. Let's start with an example test in pytest. Imagine you're testing a code where a person can enter a park, turn to face north, and view the big oak tree. Oops, sorry. Now, when you start to test the other cardinal directions, you may end up with test methods that are very similar to each other. I mean, just look at those duplicated code. Okay, let's parameterize this test. First, we need to import the pytest library. Then we pull out the cardinal directions or the face methods and the expected views into test data variable. Test data is a list of tuples. Each tuple represents all the parameters needed to run one single test iteration. In this example, the first tuple has face north as the first parameter and the big oak tree as the second parameter. On the second run of the test method, the first parameter will be face east, and the second parameter is the duck pond, and so on and so forth. And we're going to run the test 4 times by doing this. Now, once we build the test data, we can then use pytest parameterized decorator to make the test loop through the test data. The decorated test can now accept the 2 parameters that we specified, which are called face and expected here. The number of parameters and their names will depend on your test. There can be fewer than 2 or more than 2 parameters, and you can name them whatever you want to name them. Finally, here we can see that we only need to write the test code once and run it many times by feeding it with a list of parameters. This will save our time when we want to test for ordinal directions, for example. So that's how we parameterize tests with pytest. But what if you don't use pytest library? What if you use unittest? Good thing is, we can still parameterize tests with unittest. This is a similar test written with unittest syntax. It also suffers from duplicated test code when testing for all cardinal directions. Now, with unittest, we can use the same test data with the exact same structure and content. However, instead of using a decorator, we loop through the test data ourselves in a for loop and use unittest subtest method to distinguish the test iterations. Okay, now let's compare this parameterization technique between pytest and unittest. The test on the left is written with pytest syntax, while the one on the right is with unittest syntax. They both can use test data that stores all the test parameters for all test iterations. In pytest, we use parameterized decorator and feed the parameters as the test method arguments. In unittest, we loop through the test data and use unittest subtest to feed the parameters into the test iteration. To sum up, whether you use pytest or unittest, you can deduplicate similar test code using parameterization. I hope that helps to deduplicate test code so that writing tests can feel more like a walk in the park. Thanks very much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I love pytest. Use it as much as I can. And parameterization makes them really nice and clean.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Really nice. Thanks for having me.
All right. And next up, we have Gregory. Hi, Gregory. Gregory is appearing from inside his slides, which is incredible. I don't know how he's doing it, but Gregory, you have 5 minutes. Take it away. Oh, and you are muted.
That is half the battle.
There we go. You're good.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gregory Kapfhammer, and I'm really excited to be at PyCon 2021 to give this lightning talk and to be unmuted. Today, I'm going to present a tool that my colleague Tiona and I developed. The tool is implemented in Python, and it uses machine learning techniques to help you to commit to writing good commit messages. Let's dive into the tool and how we implemented it, and I'll share additionally some more with you about the usage scenario. When you're implementing a program in Python, it's probably pretty common for you to insert lines of source code, to delete lines of source code, and maybe even make changes across a number of files. When you want those lines of source code to go into your version control repository, you'll probably run a command like git commit. You may do that through your text editor, or alternatively, you may do that through a command line application. When you're typing in your commit message, you might need to think about what type of message you want to introduce. For example, if you're like me, you probably are thinking about a wide variety of questions. For example, you may wonder, are you typing the right message? Are you going to prepend the correct label to the message? Are you following the standard for your team associated with writing commit messages? Perhaps you aren't using the right punctuation, and maybe you picked the wrong tense. Now, for the purposes of today's lightning talk, I'm going to be presenting tool support that will help you to automatically generate the label that goes along with your commit message. Of course, the specific challenge is you need to make sure that the label matches the commit message and additionally matches the way that you've inserted and deleted lines of code in your system. Now, after thinking about it for a while, in this specific case, I might want to prepend the chore tag to this commit message if I was following, for example, the conventional commits standard. Now, given the fact that it's often really difficult to do this over a long time of programming, I want to present to you today a tool called Commit Canvas. Commit Canvas can be used as either a pre-commit hook, or alternatively, it can be used as a command line application. Again, as you're inserting lines of code, deleting lines of code, and changing a wide variety of files, Commit Canvas will look at all of your commit messages, look at details about your commit, and ultimately it's able to predict the message's appropriate label. Our goal for the Commit Canvas tool is that it's fully automated, it's fast, and it's accurate. We also want you to have the ability as a developer to review the commit message, give feedback on it, and approve it or change it if it's necessary to do so. Commit Canvas works by using trained machine learning models. Specifically, those models look at what code you're changing, how you're changing your code, what are the extensions that you're changing in your system, and ultimately we've produced and provide with Commit Canvas a large trained machine learning model that we created over the course of a wide variety of projects, including those implemented in many popular programming languages like Python, JavaScript, Java, and others. However, if you want to use Commit Canvas for your own specific project and data, we have a facility that will allow you to train your own project-specific model. Now, let me sum up and remind you that when you use the Commit Canvas tool, it would be able to automatically predict the following labels for these commits. For example, when you're changing the GitHub Actions build.yml file, that might be a chore. If you're integrating a new feature into your system, using conventional commits, that would be feat. And then if you're maybe reformatting your source code, that's labeled with style. And finally, if you're updating the README file, that would receive the label of docs. Again, I want to underscore the fact that the Commit Canvas tool uses machine learning to automatically predict all of these labels in a fast and accurate fashion. Finally, let me draw this short presentation to a conclusion. I first presented to you the following challenge of writing commit messages with labels that correctly follow the standard and pointed out that this process is both time-consuming and difficult. And then I presented an exciting solution. There's a commit canvas tool that you can use to automatically produce those labels. So I hope you won't struggle to label your commits in the future and instead commit to using commit canvas. You can go to our organization on GitHub, which is called the Committed Team, check our repository called Commit Canvas, and look for us to release the tool in mid-June 2021. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Gregory. So does this mean I'd never need to write a commit message ever again? Because that'd be awesome.
So here's the good news. We're close to the point where you never have to write a commit message, but at the moment, you've got to write at least a part of the message, and we'll automatically generate your label.
That's super cool. I'm definitely going to try that.
Well, thanks so much. And thanks. Correctly.
There we go. Awesome. Thanks, Gregory. So next we have, where is she? Rumanu. Hey, Rumanu. Are you there?
Hi, yes I am. Hello.
Hi.
Hello everybody.
Yeah. Can you share your
hi.
slides?
Yeah, I'm just going to share my code actually and talk through it, if that's all right.
Okay. Can you share a screen?
Yeah, in just a second.
Kudos to sharing code live. I have tried it many times, and I just accept I am not David Beasley.
Or Brett Cannon. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's awesome. Looking forward to this.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
So-
5 minutes. Take it away.
Hi everybody, I'm Rumanu. I work full-time in natural language processing, and in my free time, I like to do projects like this one. And so for people who watch The Big Bang Theory, they might be aware that Sheldon Cooper does not understand sarcasm. And so when we were in college, we thought, let's build something to kind of cater to that situation. And so we made this thing where it's basic Python code, and we're going to try to detect sarcasm. And the data set that we used comes from one of the most reliable places on the internet when it comes to humor, Reddit. And so here we go. We'll walk through it. The first part of it is we're importing a bunch of libraries, and then we just kind of have a look at what the data looks like. And so we have the names of the Reddit users, we have the comments that they made, and we have a parent comment that at some stages we use to establish context for the detection of sarcasm. And yeah, so we did some things for visualize, like we first started with EDA on the data set, and then we built a model that would enable us to actually detect sarcasm on the data set. So I'm going to go to this code. So we basically just, first we split our data set into a training and a testing. So we did that with this block of code. And then in NLP, we basically are working with embeddings. So we're trying to vectorize the words that we're using so that we can render it in a multi-dimensional space where the vectors that are kind of near each other symbolize similar meaning. This, most of you must be knowing, this is how sentiment is calculated. This is very widely used to find what the people are kind of trying to say on Twitter, etc. But it's the same thing throughout. And we're using a tokenizer. So we're splitting the words that we have, the string that we have, into individual entities. And then we're taking that and then we're padding it so that it's all equally length. And then we're trying to run it through our model. So we build a simple neural net here. It's a deep neural net. And we build that with these 4 lines of code. And this is what that looks like. We run it for a number of epochs. And we try to take care not to overfit. So we notice here that validation accuracy kind of plateaus as accuracy is increasing. But in terms of loss, we can see that the model has not overfit. And then we try to apply it. So we can enter strings of, like we can just enter a random word here after the data set has been trained. And so I ran it before and I said that I like Mondays, and the score is like there's a 10% accuracy of that being sarcastic. So it just believes that, yep, nobody likes Mondays. And so we can just test it out with another line. And so I'm going to type in yep, it's not believing me. So that was the code. I'll be sharing a link to it. You can go through the repo, and if there's anything that you feel that I can help you out with, there's a lot of cool papers in the domain that just take care of finding if something is a pun, or finding if something. Last year I presented a project at PyCon India where we had generated meme captions for projects, and code for that is up on my repo as well. So yeah, this is just so exciting. This is the kind of thing that I would like to share with the community and what the community has brought to me. So thank you so much. That has been it. And yeah.
I think I need that nuance for when I talk to my family, because they are very sarcastic people, and I'm like, oh, really? And I miss the nuance of sarcasm all the time.
That was a great talk, and that's not sarcasm. All right, so next we have a talk from Sebastian Witowski about Advent of Code and Jupyter Notebooks. And here we go.
Advent of Code, for those of you who never heard about it, is a set of puzzles released every year in December. So every day you get one new puzzle to solve. Here is the first one from the last year. We get a list of numbers, and two of them adds up to 2020. So we have to find those two numbers, multiply them together, and return the product as the final answer. So you don't have to use a programming language to solve them, but usually the input is quite large and the puzzles get more difficult, so using a programming language is a good idea. And if you decide to use Python, Jupyter can be a great tool because you can work incrementally on your solution. So if you decide to use Jupyter, then there are a few cool tricks that you can use. For example, when you want to get the documentation of some function or a module, you don't have to Google for it, you can just append the question mark, and this will give you this nice pop-up with the documentation. And this works for modules, for functions, and for third-party libraries. If you don't know how some function is called, you can use the asterisk and a question mark, and this will search for all the functions that starts with find. Although here we could just press tab and the auto-completion would do their work. But for example, I know that the OS module has a function to create directories, but I don't know how it's called. Is it mkdir? Is it makedir? Who knows? Well, I can run this code, and this will give me the list of all the functions from the OS module that contains dir somewhere in their name. So pretty handy. By the way, did you notice that I was using the RE module, but I never imported it? Well, there is a folder in IPython where you can put some Python files and they will be automatically executed. You can find it in your home folder, /ipython/profile default startup. We could open a terminal to go there, but we can also execute shell commands in IPython. We just have to prepend the question mark to the name of the command, and this will be interpreted as shell commands. So here we can list the content of my folder. You can see there is aoc.py. We can see the content of this file. I'm importing some modules, and I have my own custom function to read the input data for my puzzles. And we can even append something to the end of that file. So here we are importing OS. And sometimes you might have some data that you want to save when you close Jupyter and restore it in the next session, but you don't want to rerun your whole Jupyter notebook to get this data back because maybe it takes a lot of time. So you can use the magic store command to store this variable in the Jupyter database. So here I am reading the input for day 1. It's 200 numbers, well, strings. And here I can store it. I can list all my stored variables. As you can see, I have day 1 that I just stored and day 2 that I stored some other day. I can restore it, and here I have back the input for day 2. Pretty handy. And if you want to list all the variables that you have, you might want to use dir, but you will get a lot of output, including some internal IPython and Jupyter variables. You might use globals, but this one has even more stuff inside, the same with locals. So Jupyter has 2 functions, who and whose, that will give you a list of all the variables and functions that you have defined or you have imported. I like to use whose because you get this nice table that also gives you the type and the additional information about the function or variable. And sometimes you run some function and an error happens. And now you wish you would run this function with a debugger because, well, now you have to put some breakpoints and run it again. Well, you can use the debug magic command to perform post-mortem debugging. And this will start a debugger for the exception that just happened. So here you can see I was loading some data and I got this Unicode decode error. So let's see what was the data. Oh, it was in a binary format. Okay, so now we know what's the problem. And we can continue to get out of this debugger. If you want to automatically start the debugger, we can just run the PDB and this will turn the automatic debugger on. Now when the exception happens, we automatically get the debugger. Data is still in the binary format. Oh. Let's continue and we can turn it off. Last but not least, if you want to share your code with someone, you can send them this notebook or you can copy some code, but you can also run pastebin command. And this will create a pastebin that you can take and send to someone, and they will be able to just take this code and copy it to Jupyter Notebook or to their code editor. And I don't have time for the bonus, so I'll just leave it here. And I hope you enjoy it. What I told you about can be applied not only to Advent of Code, but also to your daily job. And if you want to learn more, I have a blog post that was a precursor of this short talk, and I will also put this notebook somewhere on my website. Thank you.
Sebastian gives the best tutorials. He's so good at it. That was a great thing. Lorena, did you ever do Advent of Code?
I have. It's one of those things, particularly, I love Python, but when I'm trying other languages, because I think that's the beauty of our community, is we're all language nerds in some regard. Advent of Code is obviously a great way for me to do that.
Yeah.
Playing in Rust that way is fun.
So up next we have DJ. Hey, DJ.
Hi. Yeah. So I want to talk about strings today. Yeah, I want to talk about strings today. I work in Python generally, among other languages. As Lorena mentioned, yeah, as a Python developer, we don't really stick to one language. So when I was coming back to Python to look for some code, and I was looking at examples, and as you do, I just copied some examples, and I saw that they were using these new types of strings called f-strings. And I just fell in love with them. And so what are f-strings? Let's talk about them today. F-strings are a way of string formatting. They were introduced in Python 3.6. Now, string formatting, most of you probably know, but in case you haven't used it, string formatting is when you take a normal string and you are able to make it dynamic by adding variables to it, or functions or expressions or anything of that sort. You know, all the stuff that we love about Python, though string formatting is there in other languages as well. With f-strings, the difference is when you used to write the old string formatting code using the .format function, you would write the entire string first with placeholders that would specify where you want to have the variables or expressions, and then you'll specify them in a list. Now, this is the old C style. It works, but it's not really Pythonist. It's not really that clean, and it's not that readable. Now, with the new f-string format, your entire string is visible right there because all the variables are put in right where you want them to be, and they're processed right then. Some examples of using f-string. I know there's a lot of code that I'm trying to show you, but I know it just looks beautiful. I can't really complain. With f-strings, see, then you just add the variables inside curly braces. You can add any string, just start it with the f, add a string, and inside it place curly braces with whatever variable you want. It can also be an expression. it can not just it can be expressions of variables, it can be functions, it can be dictionaries with objects, it can be normal objects with anything that has a string representation. You can add it. Just put the curly braces in and it'll work just like that. Not only that, the part that I love the most, you can also add a debug function to it, so that just add an equal to sign after your expression and it'll display the expression and the value in the debug mode. I don't know, the old string format version was good, but this is so much better. There's also the option of just adding an extra format value like .2f for float, and then you can have it round off to the 2 decimal places or 5 decimal places, which is also present in the old way. But the thing that amazes me the most is you can have things like padding, zero padding, and you can have things like space-based padding for strings, justify padding, and you can have all of this right inside the string, no issues at all. And you can have multi-line f strings, you can have single line, you can have multiple f strings. The only thing you can't have is an f string containing other f strings, but otherwise they're awesome. That's it for me. You can reach out to me on Discord or Twitter. These are my information.
Awesome. All right. Any thoughts on F strings, Lorena? I
just think of Marietta's endless love of F strings, and it brings me utter joy. But yeah, they're very expressive and helpful.
Absolutely. All right, so next we have Gregory talking about FastAPI.
Hi everyone, my name is Gregory. I'm a maintainer of Flask. This is my first talk on PyCon. I hope you enjoy it. One day, I searched FastAPI and Flask on Google. Then I found an article with this title. I was a little confused. I mean, as a maintainer of Flask, I never thought that something would ruin Flask. I clicked the link and Medium tells me to upgrade my membership to read it. So I didn't get a chance to know why FastAPI ruined Flask for him. But I find more articles like this. However, these bloggers didn't realize that they have made a fundamental mistake. It is, they shouldn't compare FastAPI to Flask. But why? Because FastAPI is a web API framework built on top of Starlater, a generic web framework. And at the same time, Flask is another generic web framework. If Flask is an apple, then Starlater will be the orange. In that case, FastAPI will be the orange juice. You can't compare apple to orange juice. It's not fair, it makes no sense. If so, what should I compare FastAPI to? In other words, what's the apple juice in the Flask world? To find the apple juice, we have to find an API framework that's based on Flask. And it should provide the automatic features that FastAPI has, which also means it should be a code-first framework. So we can skip Flask API extensions since they are not independent frameworks. Then we left Eve, Connection, Flask API, and API Flask. They're all frameworks based on Flask. However, Eve and Flask API don't provide built-in OpenAPI support. Connection is a spec-first framework. So it seems that API Flask is the apple juice. If you want to compare, you should compare FastAPI to API Flask. Since I happen to be the author of API Flask, I will share some details about it. Let's start with the logo. As you can see, API Flask is just another container. You can use it to hold whiskey like Flask does, or some honey for APIs, or apple juice, of course. It has the similar project structure of FastAPI. It's based on Flask and Marshmallow. It also provides the similar features, some automatic features like FastAPI. Here is the minimal application. You may wonder, it seems no difference with Flask. Yeah, actually, API Flask is just the same wrapper on top of Flask. There are only 4 key differences between them. If you know how to use Flask, then you can learn API Flask very easily. If you also familiar with Marshmallow, in API Flask, you define a Marshmallow schema for input and output data. Then use the input and output decorator with the schema on the view functions. Now all the request validation, response serialization, and OpenAPI spec generation will be handled automatically. You will also have the automatic API documentations with Swag UI and Redoc. Besides, it also provides other unities like authentication support, pagination, class-based view, etc. I do want to introduce it more, but I only have 5 minutes. So if you are interested, just check it out and apiplus.com or GitHub. Welcome to leave any suggestions or feedback on GitHub. Welcome to Forget. Thank you. And thanks it's behind API Flask. Besides open source, I write books and software in Flask and Python. If you have any questions or related ideas, or just want to say hello, feel free to reach out. Thank you. Oh, by the way, Flask 2 is just released. Give it a try. Thank you.
A lot of thank yous in there throwing me off when the applause should happen.
Hey, it's open source. We got to thank all the folks.
And it's live. That seems really awesome. I am excited about auto-generated docs. Those are always great to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anything we can do to have less friction is a plus in my book.
All right, next up is Jeremy Gibson with direnv will change your life, ... maybe. Here it is.
Morning, maybe. And thanks for watching my humble tooling proselytization titled direnv will change your life. Maybe. So, who am I? I'm Jeremy Gibson. I'm a developer at Cactus Group. You can find us at cactusgroup.com, or you can find me on Twitter at lalongdure or at Cactus Group. So, what is direnv? Why are we here today? Direnv is an extension for your shell that allows you to configure your shell environment on a per directory basis. Sounds truly awesome, right? Right. And you can find that at direnv.net. So, why will direnv change your life? Well, it gives you full control over the environment of your workspace. Plus, it adds some nifty abilities like setting up and managing your Python environments, such as pyenv or virtualenv, things like that. And it hooks to manage those things and your project's development dependencies. And there's no more bootstrapping envars into your project. Why it might not actually be the best thing for you. What direnv really excels at is instantly configuring a new environment for development. If you don't need a lot, then it might not be for you. And if you don't work with a lot of projects at once, or if you don't work with projects where there are distinct setups for environments, such as dev, staging, or production, then you might not need it. Okay, well, with all of that out of the way, why don't I just show you what it does rather than tell you what it does? Okay, I've got a directory of projects. Project 1, Project 2, and Project 3. So as you can see, so Project 1 needs Python 3.8, Node 12. Project 2 needs Python 3.9 and Node 14. And Project 3 is working with Python 3.7 and Node 10. So how do we manage that effectively with direnv? So as you can see, I move into the project, and almost immediately my environment is configured for 3.8 and Node 12. And you can just verify that that is in fact the case. And another neat feature is that now I can just jump right into the database that I have configured for this project without any fuss or muss. Okay, let's check out Project 2. And as you can see, my environment is now configured for Python 3.9 and Node 14. Just to verify, There it is, Python 3.9. And PSQL, project 2. Okay, so let's try project 3. Starting to sense a pattern here. And there it is, Python 3.7 and Node 10. Okay, so what makes all this magic possible? It is an invar.c file, along with direnv. So direnv reads this file when you enter your directory, and it says, oh, okay, you want Python 3.7. It checks with pym for that, and it sets it up, and then it activates it. Then I export a bunch of things that I need for this particular project. This can be, it's just like a bash RC file. You can set up a bunch of things that you need here, whatever you need. I can also take a look at my, my node, sets that up for NVM. I can add things to my path that I need for this particular directory. In this case, I'm adding my node modules bin. And I can set up other things such as AWS profile or my Kubernetes cluster. So in this particular case, I am going to, I want to add my AWS profile. So let's just do that. See, once I've changed something in here, if I add or remove, direnv forces you to explicitly say, yes, this is okay, because it is a bad thing to inject things into your environment, running environment, without you knowing about it. So it forces you to say, I know about this. That's it, really. And as you can see, I've added my shell has picked up, my prompt has picked up that I'm now on project 3 for AWS, which is not a real thing, but just for demonstration purposes. Okay, that's it. I hope everybody enjoyed this, and yeah, please get in touch with me if you have any questions. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of PyCon.
All right. Hey, Lorena, what do you think of that?
Hello. This is really off topic, but I find people that have very calming voices when they speak. I was like, oh, this very ASMR feel for me. But no, that was a really great talk. So that I'll admit that was the first thing I was thinking just now.
Well, we have a little extra time, so I'm going to play one lightning talk from yesterday that someone else I thought that had a very calm and relaxing and nice voice as well. So this is Jürgen Gmach talking about how to maintain many Git repositories.
Yeah, this is
Hello, and welcome to my lightning talk, how to maintain many Git repositories. My name is Jürgen Gmach. You can always reach out to me on Twitter. We all want to become open source rockstars, right? We want to help scientists take photos of black holes. We want to enable the NASA to fly to the Mars. So at one point we join an open source project. In my case, I joined the SOAP Foundation. SOAP is one of Python's oldest web frameworks. I got my first task when I told them that Python 3.9 finally is available. They thanked me for this info. They told me there is no infrastructure to switch from 3.9 dev to 3.9, and they kindly asked me to update all 300 repositories manually. What? But there is help. Repos to the rescue. Repos was written by Anthony Sotile, by one of his many clones. I guess it was the one on the far left. First you have to install it. Pip install --user all repos, or pip-x install all repos, or virtualenv, or whatever you like. Then you have to configure it. The default file name for the configuration is all-repos.json. First you have to define a directory where all repositories get cloned into. Then you have to define the GitHub organization from which you want to clone. In my case, this is the SOAP Foundation. Then you have to list your username and an API key. The first and the most important command is all-repos clone. When you decided to use the default file name, you can just enter all-repos clone, and in my case all 300 repositories get cloned, because you don't want to possibly clone 300 repositories manually. Otherwise you have to pass in the -c option with the alternative path to the configuration file. Note, you also use this command to later update all repositories, and take care this command will delete all unpushed work. The next and very cool command is all repos find files. You just specify a pattern and then you can search and find files in your repositories. In this case, I searched for tox.ini. This is the configuration file for tox, because tox is great and everybody should use tox, right? And we have 277 repositories with using tox, and there's some missing. So when you want to contribute to open source, this is a good chance, because you don't have to always write Python code. You can also help on the test setup or on CI, and this is a very valuable contribution. The next one is all repos grep. As the name suggests, you can grep in all repositories. This time I wanted to look for how many repositories use the unittest test runner, and this took a bit long, and I noticed a cool trick. You can pass in a file name pattern, and then it only gets grabbed in those files here in the tox.ini files. So we have 2 repositories using the unittest test runner. The next one sounds a bit boring. All repos list repos. What can you do with it? But there's really funky stuff you can do, like here. I wanted to know which repositories do not use a source directory, which they should because of test discovery, but that's another topic. Then here is my absolutely favorite command, all repos set. Or a set is the stream editor. You just pass in an expression and then you can update all your repositories. And in my case, I use this to update all repositories from testing Python 3.9 dev to Python 3.9. And it not only updated all repositories, but it also created pull requests, dozens of pull requests. As a bonus, you can use all repos as a library. Here you can see I imported, then I iterate over all repositories, and then I execute the tox pre-release on all of our 300 repositories. What's left? I have to thank you. Thank you, Anthony Sotai. Thank you so much for providing this awesome tool. Thank you, Yuki Hattori, for providing this slide generator. Thank you for pictures. And that's all. Thank you so much. Please reach out to me. My name is Jürgen Gmach, and have a great, great conference. Thank you and bye.
All right, that's the end of Lightning Talks for PyCon 2021. Lorena, thanks for being my co-host.
Oh, thank you for being the fearless captain of the ship. I appreciate it. To be here with you.
that was super fun. So that's the end. Enjoy the rest of PyCon. Enjoy the next keynote and live with Kojo and everything else today. I'll see you around.
See you all later. Maybe catch some of you at PyLadies auction.
Yeah, later tonight. All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.